going to run you through zero trust testing in under 10 minutes. So I've got a managed device running Zscaler Client Connector, I've got a managed device without the client, and I've got an unmanaged device. They're managed because they're enrolled in Azure AD, they've got device and user certificates on them for authentication against the identity provider. The managed and unmanaged devices without the client are going to use either browser-based access or cloud browser isolation. The managed client running Client Connector is going to connect to the private service edge located in the data center. That's going to give us the best connectivity into the workloads. In the data center, we've also got an app connector to advertise those workloads. And then in AWS, we've got app connectors and cloud connectors that give us cloud-to-cloud connectivity. We're going to show the inspection policy across the three different access methods. We're going to show cloud-to-cloud connectivity. We're going to demonstrate privileged remote access, so SSH, RDP access to workloads, as well as client-to-client. And then we're also going to show the Zscaler deception integration. So let's go to the managed client. I like to start by showing the Zscaler Client Connector installation. So it's already been deployed by Intune or SCCM. But by launching it, it's going to transparently authenticate, enroll against the service, authenticate against my ADFS service. So we show it here, launching, it's all enrolled against Internet Security and ZDX. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to launch my website. It's a very complex Apache website that tells you we're accessing the application in the data center. If we come across to the managed device without the client connector, and do exactly the same thing, we're redirected to the IDP. At this point, I'm going to sign in using a client certificate. And by virtue of authenticating in that method, the assertion is sent across. Zscaler policy says, great, I'm just going to give you browser-based access to that workload so I can fully integrate with that application. If I come across to the unmanaged device, do exactly the same thing. I'm prompted to authenticate. Of course, I don't have the client certificate, so I sign in here, markbrown@welshgeek.net. We log in here, and because I've just done username and password authentication, I'm now in the isolation container, which means I only get the screen scrapes of the page. So I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to try a remote code execution exploit, so query who am I on the machine. I still get sent into the cloud browser isolation, and the policy gets the web request gets blocked. As you'd expect, for those different kinds of access, they're blocked regardless of my access method, whether it's directly using Client Connector or using the browser-based access. Okay, so we've got all of those kind of things going on. On my client here with running Zscaler Client Connector, I'm just going to jump onto my Bastion host that's running in AWS. I authenticate, I sign in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy across an updated file to my CentOS server. Now the CentOS server is running in the data center. I'm going to fat finger the password a couple of times, as would be the best kind of demo. If I come over here, I can see that my web page has been updated. I also know that it's going through Zscaler private access through the client connector. Just by pinging that CentOS server, you can see it's resolving to a 164 address in my VPC. So cloud-to-cloud connectivity at that point. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to come across to the unmanaged device, and I'm going to demonstrate privileged remote access. So we're going to go to https privaccess.welshgeek.net. I'm already signed in against the IDP, so I get that user experience of transparency. So I could do a couple of things here. I can get onto the CentOS server using RDP. And I can see I've got these different files here, so I could copy across the index.orig and call it index.html. Let's put it back as it was. And I come back over here and the page has been updated. So privileged remote access gives me the ability to say third parties could come in and RDP onto my servers. I could also do a couple of other things. My mouse came back. I could RDP onto my certificate server. Let's log on here. Not that it's the best demo, but it's an RDP onto a Windows server. But I could also do something really interesting like RDP onto the managed device. So that managed device running Zscaler Client Connector, I can now do client-to-client connectivity through Zscaler Private Access. My client session gets disconnected because it is now being displayed within the privileged remote access for this unmanaged device. So pretty cool connectivity, different mechanisms to provide support. So let's come back over here. Let's jump back onto that managed machine. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look in the favorites here, and I've got a couple of things going on here. I've got an SAP server that seems to be going on. I've also got a Swift server. That's interesting. Now let's see if we can figure out what the passwords are for this. So we'll take a look in the File Explorer, and I can see there's a file here called creds that contains some passwords. So we know we've got a user called mryan and a password here. Let's copy across that password. Let's type it in here. Click submit, so we can work out what this application is. We can do a full interaction with the website and do a number of different things. So kind of interesting, and as an attacker or a compromised device, I'm going to start doing those things. So let's figure out what's going on here. So I'm going to sign in first off into Zscaler Deception just to finish off this piece here. And this comes across, and we can kind of see that we've got this user down here. We've got this user mryan. We've also got some system things going on through this desktop, through the endpoint, all the way through Zscaler Deception. We see some interaction with SAP and the SAP application, the Swift application, all from this one user mryan. So what Zscaler Deception gives us is the ability to trace flows through, drop lures on the machine, drop those credentials onto the machine, and track that nefarious activity. If we do an admin SSO into the Zscaler admin console, and again, the reason I demonstrate the SSO is this capability to get all that identity all the way through. We can look at this diagnostics for that user. We can see that traffic is coming through the deception here. We can see that we're using the private service edge to access that ADFS server for my SSO capabilities. We can take a look at the web inspection. And web inspection shows me all those different access methods, as well as those inspection capabilities and that traffic being blocked. All of this is then streamed to my SIEM, which means that I can take actions based on that. So with that, I hope this was useful. Any questions, let me know. Mark@zscaler.com.